How's it, loopers, and welcome to the first official episode of Dodos of the Bible. Today's Dodo is an interesting character. He is one of the greatest prophets who ever lived, and his name was Elijah. Now, Elijah is one of my favorite characters in the Bible. To set the scene in 1 Kings chapter 16, there is a new king on the block, and his name is Ahab. Now, Elijah is sent by God to go tell off the king of Israel who is not obeying God and following false gods, specifically a false god named Baal. Now, there are many amazing stories about Elijah where he trusts God, he has incredible courage, and he does wonderful things. But today, we are looking at a story of cowardice. So when does this happen? So there is a showdown between the prophets of Baal and Elijah on the top of a mountain. Elijah says to them, "Since you are so many, and you have chose for yourself one bull, prepare it first in the name of your God, but do not light the fire." So they go and do it, and then they say, "Make Baal rain fire down from the sky." And no matter what they try and do, they can't get it right. They try, they moan, they cut themselves, they do all sorts of weird things, and it doesn't happen. In fact, Elijah taunts them, and he asks them perhaps their God is busy being on the loo and cannot get to them right now. Then Elijah goes on and he goes and rebuilds the altar. He digs a trench, he does a whole bunch of things. And then he says, "Answer me, O Lord, answer me, so that this people will know that you, the Lord, are God, and that you have turned their hearts back again." Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the sacrifice of wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up the water in the trench. And we see from that amazing situation that God demonstrated that He is the true and real God. Now, after this wonderful, victorious time that Elijah has just seen, what happens next is the reason that we look at Elijah as being a little bit of a dodo. See, in 1 Kings chapter 19, Ahab goes back and he tells Jezebel everything that Elijah had done, that he had put the prophets to death with the sword. And when Jezebel hears this, she's pretty angry, and she sends a messenger to Elijah, and the messenger is told to say this: "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them." And when Elijah hears this, he goes absolutely crazy. In verses 3, he runs for his life. And he finds a bush and he goes and climbs under the bush and cries. He was so upset that he wanted to die. He said to the Lord, "I have had enough, God. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Now, why is he a dodo? Well, you see, Elijah was a man who took on the fiercest prophets of Baal on a mountaintop. And Elijah ends up fearing a queen, Jezebel. And after God shows him that he is greater than the prophets of Baal, he still gets spooked by this queen. He briefly forgets that God is in control and on his side, and he feels alone and flees. God responds to Elijah and sends an angel to feed Elijah when he wakes up and to look after Elijah. Then Elijah heads off for a 40-day journey to seek the Lord. God gives Elijah 3 tasks. The first one is to anoint Hazael as the new king of Assyria. The second is to anoint Jehu as king of Israel. And those 2 men will get rid of all these people who are against God. And thirdly, he is told to anoint Elisha. And Elisha is the prophet who's going to take over from Elijah. Now, another way that God comforts Elijah is in 1 Kings chapter 19 verses 18. This is what it says: "Yet I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal, and whose mouths have not kissed him." See, God encourages him to stick it out because he's not alone. There are 7,000 people in Israel who know God and who have also failed to worship Baal and have stuck with God. And the moral of the story today is there are going to be sometimes, guys, when we are in situations where things might seem not in our favor. We might be overwhelmed. We might be stuck in lockdown right now, and we might think that things are getting too much. But we can hold firmly to this God here who deals with a bit of a dodo, who kind of loses his mind briefly and runs away, and yet God is kind and gracious with him. And that, boys and girls, is today's lesson. On this lesson, I just want to tell you what amazing content there is available online for you during lockdown. We've got a couple of really awesome series at the moment online on our YouTube channel. We have something called Dodos, which is every Friday, and that is for the Loops teens from grades 5 to 7, and that has a fun series working through the Bible and looking at interesting characters there. From a Monday to a Friday, we have something called Bobs, and Bob stands for Books of the Bible, and we have one coming out every day during the week. Finally, as part of our Sunday school lessons that you'll be watching now, we have something called Lightbulb, and Lightbulb is a fun family craft for you to do at home. It uses recyclable materials, and it is something that you can make home, and it links to the lessons. So please follow the links after these lessons and go check out our YouTube page. Thank you very much.